Previously on Balls.
Visual Radio, joining us on the line, in my humble opinion,
the legend.
a man when he walked into bat, technically you could not fault, and when he was in full cry, the greatest batsman I've ever watched. Great to have him on the show. He's been sort of laying low for a while. Haven't heard from him a lot. It is the one and only Darryl Cullinan. Welcome to Balls Visual Radio, Darryl.
Hi guys.
How was that intro?
Can you phone me every day with that intro?
Thanks for taking time off your coaching, Darryl.
No problem.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
Yeah, you've got the coaching clinic, isn't it? Yeah, St. Peter's, I think.
Yes, that's correct. I've had this building which I've rented through the years, and probably over the last 10 years we've had about 500 kids of all ages come through our academy. This on and off I've had between 4 and 5 guys working with me, and we've mostly worked with the younger guys, the 6 to 15 age group, which I found most enjoyable. It's really, really been fulfilling, and we've been fortunate. We've seen some really good talent, and we hope that in time some of it will, maybe feature at a high level.
Well, I think it's awesome. I mean, these guys, do they know how lucky they are? They're learning from an absolute maestro.
Now, often the little guys now, the 6 or 7 or 8-year-olds walk in, and it's a scenario with Dad. He's wanting to be polite, and he's saying, well, these guys, you know who this is, and this and that, and get his autograph, and the little guy looks up and he says, no. And Dad's in effect.
No, but it's because Dad wants it.
Yeah,
exactly.
At times it's quite amusing. So no, the younger guys, they're lovely because there's no issues with them. Bat, have a ball, bowl, and it's so sweet and innocent, and they're at that learning stage, so they soak it up. So that's why I've chosen to work with that sort of age, and it's good fun.
Darryl, I mean, a lot of people who are so extremely talented in a discipline sometimes find the transition to going to coaching quite different or quite difficult. How do you sort of bring your brilliance and expertise to these young little kids without sort of destroying their value of fun?
We've tried to find a balance, and a lot of it has just been through experience, funny enough. I have no doubt that had I finished playing and got into coaching at a higher level, it would not have worked, because it's a different element of that whole side, I guess, of man management, getting to work with players. And I took a decision because that's never been my strength. I was never really that type of person as a cricketer. That where I wanted to start and was with the younger guys. So, fun with a mix and an element of discipline at the same time, teaching them the basics of the game. But, you've got to, I've learned, you've got to develop a relationship with the kid first. So you gain his trust, because the young guys, they like you or they don't. Older guys can tolerate you.
Yeah, lovely, well said.
Yeah, but an 8-year-old, he likes you or he doesn't. So you've got to really, that relationship is so important. So for me, it's been a very, very good experience, I must say.
I've got to say, I'm probably a little bit of a purist when it comes to the game of cricket, and that's why, and I honestly meant exactly what I said. In terms of technique and seeing you in full cry is one of probably the best cricketer I've ever watched in terms of batting. How I get upset by watching the technique of a lot of modern day cricketers because of perhaps the 2020 game that has come in so prominently into the game of cricket, where you're seeing guys that maybe have a tremendous hand-eye coordination, but yet it just looks like the guys are just playing agricultural shots all of the time. Me personally, I get upset by not seeing correct technique. How do you deal with that with these kids? Were they watching a lot of 2020 and just want to smash the ball like Kevin Peterson?
It's difficult. It's a very valid point, because that is the fun and the excitement, and the big bat scenario and the whole thing about trying to hit the ball as far as possible. That is why my philosophy is very simple. We teach the kids the basics and that proper technique that must be set by the age of 10 or 11. But it's a constant battle, because they're so influenced by what they see and they hear. So it is a struggle. I think we've just got to come to terms with it. And I think the better ones, in all formats, if we look at a higher level, perhaps we get to first-class cricket, it really bothers me, because I see guys, and you can look at the scores, we don't see those big hundreds so often around the country, and at international level as well. And I think the importance of dividing, and now all three formats of the game, where I think in time you'll see 2020 become like rugby sevens, where it's a separate, completely different side. And then your 50 over, perhaps one or two test players, and then you have your test squad. Yeah.
You look at that Australian T20 side. I was watching the game the other day. I hardly recognize any other guys.
Yeah. I agree with it. I think that's, I was the first guy in world cricket who said, right, I'm not playing a 50 over cricket anymore. I wanted to focus on test cricket because I knew other guys perhaps found it difficult, but I found it difficult to move freely and quickly between the two formats of the game. I think the guys today they're much more used to it. They play more cricket. I think their skill levels are better than what our skill levels were, and especially through the influence of 50 over. 2020 has made that even more the factor. So it's critical, I think. If you look at our test team and how well we've played, that's been pretty cemented in terms of those guys and the experienced batsmen who've worked out their game, who understand the requirements of each format. But I wouldn't want to see anybody in our test team playing T20 cricket.
And then you've got someone like, so I'm not just bringing this up because it's you on the line, but then you've got someone like Shane Warne saying that he thinks that one team should represent in all three formats.
Yeah, well, who might argue against the great man? I think he's honestly out of touch. I read some of his comments yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's too much Botox and Liz Hurley.
Teeth whitening.
Yeah, when he makes that comment, clearly it tells me he was never a batsman, which he never was. Perhaps bowling, in a sense, you could carry it.
Yeah, sure.
It's
a good point.
Playing. But from a batting point of view, that's my personal opinion. And through my own experience, perhaps others would disagree, and I'm sure there would be some that would disagree, yeah.
Darryl, I mean, we know your time is precious. Just one thing, up-and-coming stars that you may have seen that maybe aren't in the Protea squads at this stage. Anything that you've noticed that we should maybe be aware of?
I think they've got it right. I've been very happy with, I think, the introduction of Gary and Alan and the way they've gone about things. And I mean, I played with Gary. He's got a wonderful cricket brain, and he's a guy's opinion about it, a young cricketer. And if he said to me, "Look, Darryl, I believe that I can play," I know he can play. And we're now blessed for the first time that we've got that sort of thinking, and it's helped tremendously. I'll be honest with you, I don't watch a lot of first-class cricket. So sadly, we don't see the 4-day format because that's where you can work out a player that can play if he's got something going for him. The one-day cricket's more on television and even the domestic stuff, so I get to see that. But there's no one in particular that I've really stood up and said, wow. I think we've got a lot of good young players. I think this present series against New Zealand was a good one for them, that they're perhaps not as good as they think they are. They know they've got a bit of work to do. But I was pleased to see them exposed in a must-win series. Often it's the one series, give the boys a run, and that doesn't really help. So I think it's been good for Gary in that sense. I think all round, if I had to say, I think all round, we're always competitive, eh? We're always going to bring out some special players, and you probably find 2-3 will emerge over the next period. I'm interested to see particularly which of our black Indian coloured cricketers come through now, because they've been part of, have been exposed, the whole development program. And I believe that's where most of our talent's going to come from, and we're going to see some pretty exciting talent.
And Darryl, your thoughts on AB as our one-day captain? I know you weren't always a fan. Have you changed your opinion?
No, I was very vocal years ago when Boucher was still playing that he'd take the gloves. What I could live with the fact that taking the gloves in both Test and one days. I think in the Test matches, sorry, just to get off the point, but I need to make it. In terms of the Test cricket, that him taking the gloves was the single biggest factor, in my opinion, why we played so well in the last 2-3 years in Test cricket. It just opened up the selection options superbly. And he's a 2-in-1 cricketer. Whether he physically can hold out, I don't know. I would perhaps step back in terms of the captaincy in one-day cricket, give him some sort of relief and space. But there again, Gilchrist did it for Australia. Opened the batting, he did it in all formats and did it for a very long period. And look, that is an absolute luxury to have that in your team. So I think that, it's not about Abby. Sadly, this is about the team, and he's got to pull through, and they've got to resolve it. I think the critical thing here, they've got to resolve it for his sake, most of all. That's our plan. They can't keep ifs and ands and buts. That's what's unsettling, not the fact that he's doing it. That's how I feel it. But, it's a tough one because he's such a talented player. I mean, he's one of the guys, and when he's going, I'm prepared to put the box on and watch. He sets the game alight.
Darryl, just finally, can we go for a run sometime? Because that's how I caught up with Darryl, by the way, running past my house. And you're looking fit, I must admit. Can we go for a run?
John, you need to start running, my friend.
Darryl, listen.
You ran marathons. You ran the Comrades, haven't you?
10 Comrades, yeah.
You wouldn't know it, though.
9 Londons, 6
Wow.
New Yorks.
Yeah. I know a bit more about you than you.
But
I think you
no.
can teach me a few things and get me mentally strong how to start. I want to tackle a half and a marathon.
Well, if you teach Matthew, then we can.
I don't think Darryl's going to run.
No problem.
He's not
Thank you,
going
Darryl, you're a
to
star,
run.
mate.
He's not going to run past your house again. Then.
Yeah, I was about to say, Darryl, that was the worst mistake you made, running past Johnny's house. He hounded you for 2 days
Yeah,
looking for an
no.
interview.
You're a star.
It's
I
brilliant.
couldn't say no.
Thanks, Pat.
Excellent.
This is Balls Visual Radio. Darren, Simon, Kate, and John. Weekdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central African Time. Balls.co.za.